Hi everyone, we're going to work on the second part of Module 7 and 8 review. So let's work on question number 21. We're planning a reception for our daughter. The hall that we're renting charges a $65 cleanup fee. In addition to the cleanup fee, they charge $31 per guest for food and drinks. If we have $2,950 available, what is the maximum number of guests we can invite without going over our budget? So the total charge that we're going to have here will be a $65 plus 31 per guest. So let's call that X. And this total charge should be less than or equal to $2,950. Now, all we need to do is solve this for X and see what is the maximum number of guests that we have. So I'm going to subtract 65 from both sides. So 31X is less than or equal to 2885, and then we need to divide both sides by 31. So X will be less than or equal to 93.06, and that means the number of guests should be 93. Next question is saying that there is a rectangle room which is 4 meters longer than it is wide, and the perimeter is 32 meters. Find the dimension of the room. So if I consider this rectangle, and let's say the width of the rectangle is X, the length of that is 4 meters longer than width. So that means it's going to be X plus 4. Now we know that perimeter is 32. What is the perimeter? Perimeter is 2 times width plus 2 times the length, X plus 4. And this is equal to 32. So all we need to do is solve this for X. So I have 2X plus distributed to here, 2X plus 8 equal to 32. Now these two combine, 4X plus 8 equal to 32, and 4X will be 32 minus 8, which is 24, and X will be 24 divided by 4, which is 6. So the width is 6, and length will be 6 plus 4, which is 10. Next question, if you wanted to make $579 by investing $3,800 for 4 years in an account that pays simple interest, what interest rate you would need to achieve your goal? So first of all, simple interest has a formula that looks like this. I equal to P times R times T. I is the interest, P is the initial amount or principal amount, R is the rate, and T is time. So we're trying to make $579. This is the interest, so that's going to be here, $579. The principal amount is $3,800. The rate is what we are looking for. So I'm going to write R here. And time is 4 years. So write 4 here. Now to solve for R, we need to divide the left side by 3,800 times 4. Because these two are multiplied, so we're going to divide them. So these two will cancel. And R will be equal to 0.03809, and we can round it to 3.81%. Question 24. A patient has an illness that typically lasts 24 hours. The temperature T in degrees Fahrenheit of the patient T hours after the illness begins is given by this formula. As you see, this is a quadratic formula. When does the patient's temperature reach its maximum value? So first of all, I know this is a quadratic formula, and it goes downward because the A value is negative. So it's going to be something like this. The temperature goes up and then after a while goes down. The maximum temperature is the vertex of this parabola, basically. So how do I find the vertex of a parabola when you're given a quadratic equation? We know that vertex can be found, the x of vertex can be found from negative b over 2a. B is the coefficient of x or t here, and a is the coefficient of t squared. So I'm going to use this formula and let's find the x value of the vertex. So b is negative. I have a negative here, and I'm going to write 0.236 divided by 2 times a value, which is negative 0.101. And when you use your calculator, that's going to be equal to 11.8. This is not my answer yet, because I need to find the maximum temperature. What is the patient's maximum temperature during the illness as well? This is how long it's going to take. The 11.8 is how long it's going to take to reach the maximum. So we're going to write that here, but then we're going to find the maximum temperature as well. In order to find that, you're going to plug this back into this equation. So T after 11.8 will be negative 0.01 times 11.8 squared plus 0.236 times 11.8 plus 98.1. And when you use your calculator, this will be equal to 99,4,924. And the unit is temperature is in Fahrenheit. Question 25. Find the interest rate if $400 and increase to $576 in 2 years compounded annually. I'm going to write the answer as a percent. So first of all, the formula that we're going to use is this. A is equal to P 1 plus R over N to the power of N times T. N is the number of times that the money is compounded in a year, basically. So when you say compounded annually, that means N is 1, because once a year the money is compounded. The principal money is 400, and this 576 is the final amount. So I'm going to write the equation as 576 is equal to 400, 1 plus R is what we're looking for. We're looking for the interest rate. So I'm going to write R here. N is 1, and here N is again 1, and time is 2 years. Now we're going to solve this. First of all, divide both sides by 400. So it's going to be 1.44 on the left side, and the right side will be 1 plus R, because it's R over 1 is just R, to the power of 1 times 2, which is 2. Now, in order to solve for R, we're going to take the square root of both sides, so we get rid of this power of 2. So 1 plus R will be equal to 1.44. And then we're going to, 1.44 square root of that. And then we're going to subtract 1 from both sides. And R will be equal to square root of 1.44 minus 1, which is 0.2. And since you want to write that as a percent, that's going to be 20%. So that's my answer. The next question, a rancher has 280 feet of fence with which to enclose 3 sides of a rectangular meadow. Find the dimensions of the meadow with the largest possible area. So we have this rectangle and we want to put the fence around only 3 sides of that. So let's say not this side, only these 3 sides. So we're trying to find the dimension of this rectangle, knowing that we want to have the largest possible area. So if I consider the width of this rectangle as x, this one also will be x. I know that I have 280 feet of fence. So if I use x and x of that for the width, how much is left for the length? Of course, it's going to be 280 minus 2x because we have used 2x of them for the other 2 sides. So this is the length, this is the width. Now, we're looking for the area. First of all, you know area is length times width. What is the width? It's x. And what is the length? Is 280 minus 2x in this case. So let's distribute that. I'm going to have x times 280, which is 280x, and x times negative 2x, that's negative 2x squared. I'm going to write it this way so it's easier for us to see the quadratic equation that we have here. Okay, so negative 2x squared plus 280x. So as you see, this is a quadratic equation, and the graph of that is going to be a parabola. We're looking for the maximum area here. Maximum area happens when we reach to the vertex of this parabola. So we need to look for this point. We need to find x and y of this point. So we know that the x of vertex comes from this formula, negative b over 2a. So what is the b value? Is 280. So I'm going to write negative 280 over 2 times a is negative 2. So when you divide them, it's going to be 70. So this 70 is the x of vertex, and that's the x value. Basically, it's the width of the rectangle. And then the length is going to be 280 minus 2x. So 280 minus 2 times 70, that's going to be 140. So the dimensions will be 70 and 140. And then we're looking for the largest area that is possible for this rectangle. So we just need to plug in 70 to find the y value of the vertex. So when x is equal to 70, then the area will be negative 2 times 70 squared plus 280 times 70. And when you use your calculator, that's going to be equal to 9,800. Okay, next question, 27, says the number of bacteria in a culture is given by this function, where T is measured in hours. The first question is asking, what is the relative rate of growth? So we know that this is an exponential growth, and the general formula is n of t equal to n0e to the power of rt. And rate of growth is basically this number, 0.3. That is the r value. So 0.3 means 30%. So we're just going to write 30% here. And the initial value is this value, which is matching 930. So 930 is the initial value. Now it's asking how many bacteria will the culture contain at time equal to 5 hours. So all we need to do is just replace the time equal to t here. So that's going to be 930 times e to the power of 0.3 times 5. And when you use your calculator, it's going to give us this number, 4167.970835, which we are rounding that as this number. Question 28, you deposit $5,000 in an account earning 3% interest compounded monthly. How much will you have in the account in 10 years? So we're going to use this formula first, A equal to P, 1 plus Rn to the power of n times t. And this is compounded monthly. That means n is 12 times a year. So the initial amount is 5,000. So I'm going to write 5,000 here. 1 plus R is 3%. So I can write that as a decimal value, 0.03. And N is 12. And I'm going to write the N here as well. And the time is 10 years. So write 10. Then if you use your calculator, this is going to be equal to this number. Okay, next question. How much would you need to deposit in an account now in order to have $4,000 in the account in 10 years? So first of all, also assume the account earns 3% interest and compounded monthly. So first of all, I know the formula that I'm going to use is this: A equal to P 1 plus R over N to the power of N times T. This $4,000 is the final amount, so it's going to sit here. We're looking for the initial amount, asking how much you would need to deposit. So the P is what I'm looking for. 1 plus R is 0.03, and N is compounded monthly, so it's 12 to the power of 12 times 10 years. So I write 10 here. Now we're trying to find p-value. As you see, this is $4,000 equal to P times this whole thing. In order to find the P, all I need to do is divide 4,000 by this whole thing that I have on the right side. 1 plus 0.03 divided by 12 to the power of 12 times 10. And when you enter this to your calculator, it's going to give you this amount. Question 30. Find how much money needs to be deposited now into an account to obtain $2,800 in 13 years if the interest rate is 8% per year compounded continuously. So when it says compounded continuously, we're going to use this formula: A equal to P e to the power of RT. This is for compounded continuously. Notice this is the key word to know if you need to use this formula. Okay, the final amount we want to be 2,800. So I'm going to write 2,800. P is the initial amount, and we need to know what is that we're looking for. That e to the power of R is 8%. So I write 0.8, and the time is 13. Now to find the P, you need to divide 2,800 by e to the power of 0.08 times 30. And the answer will be equal to this value. The last question, 31. Find the time it takes for $5,200 to double when invested at an annual interest rate of 17% compounded continuously. So again, we have continuously compound, so we're going to use A equal to P times e to the power of RT. So the initial amount is 5,200, so I'm going to write that here again: A equal to P e to the power of RT. Initial amount is 5,200. It needs to be double, so this times 2 will be 10,400. E to the power of R is 17%, so I'm going to write as 0.17, and time is what we're looking for. We want to know how long it's going to take for 5,200 to be doubled as this value. So in order to solve, the first thing that I'm going to do is divide both sides by 5,200. They cancel. And then the left side is 2, right side is e to the power of 0.17 times t. Now, in order to get the t by itself, you're going to change this to log. So that's going to be ln. Because the base is e, I'm going to write ln. Instead of writing log base E, I write ln of 2 is equal to 0.17 t. Because always the power is the answer to the log. Now, in order to get the t by itself, divide by 0.17. They cancel, and t is equal to ln of 2 divided by 0.17. And when you use your calculator, it's going to be equal to this much. Okay, now the next part, find the time it takes for $520,000 to double. So again, we're using the same formula, A equal to PERT, and then the initial amount is 520,000 e to the power of 0.17 times t, and that's equal to 0.1000. Again, you divide both sides by this number. Left side is 2, right side is E, 0.17 t. And if you take the log, change it to log, it's going to be ln of 2 equal to 0.17 t. And t is equal to ln of 2 divided by 0.17. As you see, this is the same thing as we had before. So the answer will be also the same. No matter how much you have initial in your account, it's going to take this much here to be doubled in such an account. Okay, so this was the review for module 7 and 8. I hope it was helpful for you.